God isolates you for a reason. Do not worry. In life, we all go through moments of feeling isolated, separated from others, or even abandoned. These times can be confusing and difficult, leaving us wondering why God has allowed us to feel so alone. But what if this isolation isn't a punishment or a sign that something has gone wrong, but rather a divine preparation for something greater? What if God is isolating you for a reason, shaping you in ways you can't yet see? As believers, it's crucial to remember that God never abandons His children. When we feel alone, it's often because He is drawing us closer to Himself, preparing us for something that will shape our faith, our purpose, and our journey with Him. These moments of isolation can be painful, but they are often necessary for growth. God uses these times to refine us, teach us, and mold us into the people we were always meant to be. When we are removed from the noise and distractions of the world, we can finally hear His voice more clearly. So if you're feeling isolated today, don't worry. God is at work in your life, and He is using this time for your good, even if you can't yet see the full picture. Isolation is a time of preparation. One of the most significant reasons God isolates us is to prepare us for the next phase of our lives. Think about the great figures of the Bible, people like Moses, Joseph, and even Jesus Himself. Each of them experienced a period of isolation before stepping into the fullness of their calling. Moses was isolated in the wilderness for 40 years before God called him to lead the Israelites out of Egypt. Joseph spent years in prison, falsely accused and forgotten by those he helped, before rising to a position of power in Egypt that would ultimately save his family. Even Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness before beginning His public ministry. These periods of isolation were not wasted time. Instead, they were essential for building their character, deepening their relationship with God, and preparing them for the immense tasks ahead. In our own lives, God may isolate us because He sees that we are not yet ready for the next step. Perhaps there are lessons we still need to learn, areas where we need to grow, or challenges we need to overcome. When we are surrounded by people and distractions, it's easy to miss the quiet lessons God is trying to teach us. But in moments of isolation, when everything else is stripped away, we are forced to rely on Him completely. These times of preparation may feel uncomfortable, but they are essential for molding us into the people God created us to be. He is strengthening our faith, sharpening our focus, and teaching us to depend on Him in ways we never would if life were easy and comfortable. During these seasons, it's important to remember that God has a purpose for every moment of our lives, even the moments that feel lonely or painful. Isolation is a time to strengthen your relationship with God. Another reason God may isolate you is to strengthen your relationship with Him. When life is busy, it's easy to lose sight of our connection with God. We get caught up in the demands of work, relationships, and everyday responsibilities, leaving little time for quiet moments with our Creator. Isolation can be God's way of drawing you back to Him, creating space for you to deepen your relationship with Him and hear His voice more clearly. In these times, you may feel like the world has abandoned you, but it's often in those moments that God is closer than ever. He is inviting you to lean on Him, to trust Him, and to seek His guidance more intentionally. Think about Jesus' time in the wilderness. While He was isolated and tempted, He used that time to draw closer to God and strengthen His resolve for the mission ahead. When we are alone, we are more likely to spend time in prayer, reading the Word, and seeking God's presence. This is an opportunity for spiritual growth that we might otherwise miss in the business of life. If you are going through a period of isolation, don't waste the opportunity to draw nearer to God. Use this time to deepen your prayer life, to meditate on His promises, and to listen for His guidance. Isolation is a time to refocus on your purpose. Isolation can also be God's way of helping you refocus on your purpose. Sometimes we get so caught up in our day-to-day lives that we lose sight of the bigger picture, the purpose God has for our lives. We become distracted by the opinions of others, the demands of the world, and the pressures to succeed in ways that don't align with God's plan. When God isolates us, it's often because He wants to remove these distractions and remind us of the calling He has placed on our lives. During these times, God may be refining your sense of purpose, helping you see more clearly what He is calling you to do. Just as He did with Moses, Joseph, and others, God uses periods of isolation to clarify our mission and align our hearts with His will. This process can be uncomfortable because it often requires letting go of things we've been clinging to, whether it's relationships, careers, or ambitions that don't align with God's plan. But in the end, this refocusing is essential for fulfilling the purpose God has for us. If you find yourself feeling isolated, take the time to reflect on your purpose. Ask God to reveal what He wants you to focus on in this season. What is He calling you to do that you've been neglecting? What areas of your life need to be realigned with His will? Use this time to reset your priorities and refocus on the path God has laid out for you. Isolation as protection from harm. There are times when God isolates us, not only for preparation and refocusing, but also for protection. We often don't see the dangers that lie ahead, but God does. He knows the people, situations, and influences that can harm us, even when we don't recognize them. By isolating us, God may be shielding us from relationships or circumstances that would lead us astray or cause us harm. Think about how God protected the Israelites by leading them into the wilderness after they were freed from Egypt. Though the wilderness was harsh and isolating, it was also a place of protection. God shielded His people from immediate danger and led them safely to the promised land in His timing. In the same way, God may be isolating you to protect you from harm. Perhaps there are people in your life who don't have your best interests at heart, or maybe there are temptations and distractions that could derail your spiritual journey. In His wisdom, God removes you from these situations to keep you safe. While this isolation can feel lonely or unfair, it's important to trust that God knows what's best for you. He sees the bigger picture, and He is always working for your good, even when it's hard to understand. Isolation as a time of transformation. Finally, God uses isolation as a time of transformation. When we are isolated, we are more open to change because we have fewer distractions and influences pulling us in different directions. God often isolates us because He wants to do a deep work in our hearts, transforming us from the inside out. This transformation may involve healing from past wounds, breaking free from unhealthy patterns, or developing new strengths and qualities that we will need in the next phase of our journey. Transformation is not always easy, and it often requires going through a period of discomfort. Just as a butterfly must go through the isolating process of metamorphosis in its cocoon before emerging transformed, we too must undergo times of isolation to become who God intends us to be. During these seasons, God is working on areas of our character that need refinement. He is teaching us patience, trust, humility, and resilience. These qualities are not developed overnight, but through the process of being set apart, we are transformed into people who are more like Christ. If you are in a season of isolation, don't resist the work God is doing in you. Trust that this is a time of transformation, even if it's hard to see the results right now. God is shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, and more in tune with His will. When you emerge from this season, you will be transformed in ways that will equip you for the next chapter of your life. So guys, let me know your thoughts in the comments section below. For more interesting content, give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. For more awesome content, have a nice day, and I will see you in the next video.